Flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor, may I have the Open Public Meetings Act statement, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in compliance with NJSA 10:4, the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this regularly scheduled meeting of the Jackson Township Planning Board has been published and posted in accord with DCA guidelines for virtual meetings as well in all necessary locations.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
For Monday, April 26, 2021, the Jackson Township Planning Board meeting, Mr. Dolan.
He's on mute.
You're on mute, Tim.
Present.
Dr. Campbell is absent. Mr. Riker is absent. Mr. Jeswicki.
I'm here.
Mr. Luisi is absent. Ms. Brito. Mr. Wall.
Here.
Mr. Fleming.
Here.
Mr. Riccardi.
Here.
Mr. Herring.
Here.
Mr. Hudak.
Here. Okay. Payment of voucher recording secretary for this evening, April 26, 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So.
All in favor?
Aye.
And, we have payment of voucher for the planning board secretary this evening, April 26, 2021, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. There are no legal matters this evening. There are any changes to the schedule? Denise, anything? No? Okay. All right, we're going to jump right into it. Our first application this evening is block 6501, lot 42.04, Dubin Contracting LLC. Mr. K, please bring us up to speed on this.
Happy to, Mr. Chairman. It's an application for preliminary and final site plan approval for a 6,000 square foot office building on a West County Line Road. I believe it was March 1st when we heard some initial testimony, and there actually was quite a bit of testimony. Traffic, I think we addressed, and the overall site development. The board, that application was variance free, but the board had some concerns regarding the actual layout. So the applicant went back. We have a revised plans in front of us. There is some additional variance or relief or new variance relief that's required, and of course some testimony from the applicant in support of that. By reconfiguring the site, that's really the reasons for the variance relief that's requested. I would just ask some confirmation from the applicant regarding the trash enclosure. It's not dimensioned on the drawing, but it would be required to be a minimum of 10 feet from the property line. Again, I think just some testimony from the applicant regarding the modifications to the plan. That's all at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our office has a third review letter dated April 22nd of this year. Property still in the HC Highway Commercial Zone. As Mr. Klee indicated, the site plan was revised in accordance with comments from the initial hearing on March 1st. I suspect we're going to hear testimony regarding that. It appears that in addition to 3 existing bulk variances for the existing site itself, that additional variances will be necessary for side yard setback, minimum parking setback from the right-of-way, and a minimum parking setback from a non-residential property line. All of those appear to be due to the fact that the applicant had reconciled the request from the board at the March 1st meeting and moved the building around. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Salvatore Alfieri, Cleary, Giacobbe, Alfieri, and Jacobs on behalf of the applicant. As your board professionals indicated, we did provide a revised plan to reorient this building closer to the road at the suggestion of the board. Our witnesses tonight are our engineer, Mr. Branco, and then we have a planner to discuss the variances. At the last meeting and prior to the last prior to the last meeting. We submitted buy-sell letters to demonstrate to the board that it's an isolated, undersized lot. We have a hardship in that we can't acquire land and or sell the property to address it. So I wasn't sure if they were marked into evidence, but they were submitted in advance. We also agreed at the last meeting that one of the adjacent property owners requested that we install a specific type of fence. And I think, Jason, you testified to that at the last hearing, did you not? All right, so we agreed to a specific fence to address the neighbors' concerns, and that remains an issue, remains a condition if this is approved. And finally, we did, in addition to the 2 reports that your professionals discussed at the beginning of the meeting, we did get a review letter from the fire official that there were no issues from their point of view. And now we're going to call our engineer.
Just so you're aware, we just noted on the record that Ms. Riccardi is not eligible, did not have a transcript, didn't have an opportunity.
Good night.
There's still a quorum.
Unfortunately,
But just so the record is clear.
Thank you.
Joseph, have a look.
We'll see you soon.
And you have to stay and sit in the corner.
Jason, is the handheld?
Yeah, it's right. There's one. Oh, he has it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So if you'd raise your right hand, we reach right. You solemnly swear affirm that testimony, information, questions, or comments you're about to present before the board represent the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Can you again give us your full name, spell your last, and your affiliation, please? You've been previously sworn and your credentials accepted,
Yes.
however. Yeah.
My name is Jason Burneyko. That's Burneiko. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I'm employed by D.W. Smith, which is a subsidiary company of PS&S. And that's, I've been previously sworn in at the first meeting.
And qualified. Thank you. We accept your credentials.
Thank you.
Jason, would you describe for the board the changes that were made to the plan since the March 1st hearing, please? And if you're going to be referring to exhibit, we should tell Anthony so you can put it up. It's
Okay.
a plan.
These are 2 new exhibits, so I don't know. I know we had exhibits previously. Okay. I believe that was sent over. Should
Yeah.
I number these as?
Wait.
exhibits?
Let's see what. You have nothing? You have this one? Okay. Thank you. There. Could you identify, is that the plan?
That was the previous exhibit from the first
Okay.
meeting.
If you caught a quick peek of that, you'll see how that building was set all the way back. So then you'll have a way to compare what we're discussing this evening. There we go.
Yeah, that's the exhibit that's here.
And that's the last revised.
This was last revised. This is the latest plan that was revised with the April date, April 5th, I believe.
I think, and I'll ask Ms. Bono, our secretary, I think this would be A5. Yeah, but
Okay, Jason, summarize for the board the changes that were made.
So after the first meeting that we had in March, as was previously stated, but just to reorient the board, our building location was set to the rear of the site with a single row of a single drive aisle with parking on both sides that basically dead ended in front of the building.
Mr. Burneyko, why don't you use your pointer on that one?
Okay. So based on the comments that were received at the prior board meeting, the board members and professionals had advised that a better solution for this site would be to move the building closer to West County Line Road, which would be more in line with the existing Mavis Tire building. And over here, I don't know if you could zoom out on that. Over here is a previously approved plan that's not under construction yet, but this will be a future, there you go, a future building. So now we have three buildings here that are basically in line with each other, and just presents better uniformity along West County Line Road. I'll note that the building itself is the same size building. It's the same professional office use. The site still provides the required 30 parking spaces. The building is 6,000 square feet of office space. And as previously discussed at the meeting, in order to move the building this close to West County Line Road, and to be able to fit a drive aisle along the side of the building, there were a couple additional variances and waivers that have been created. One of the variances is a setback to the side yard of the property, which is now 12 feet, where 20 feet is required. And there's also a side yard parking setback. We are in the neighborhood of 4 feet over here and 6 feet up here, where 20 feet is required. And in the front yard, we have a 15-foot setback where 20 feet is required. The front yard setback was set here for the parking, which is basically matching where the existing Mavis Tire parking is. And we do have a planner here tonight that'll be able to go into more details on the variances and waivers that are required. By doing this new layout, we've allowed access to the rear of the property, which provides better circulation. It provides a looped circulation pattern for garbage trucks, emergency trucks, delivery trucks. Anybody now they don't come up to a dead end parking that was previously designed. And by putting this parking in the rear of the site, we were able to relocate the trash enclosure to the far corner of the site. I'll note that the intent of the grading and the drainage remains the same. The impervious percentage has increased with this new design, but it's still below the percentage requirement. But the intent is the same. We're controlling our drainage through 2 underground drainage systems, which is going to reduce the flow off-site at the front of the property to levels that are below the pre-existing conditions. The landscaping you can see on this plan, we've provided landscaping all around the site. We've provided 52 trees where 37 are required based on tree replacement calculations. And we've planted within the available islands. We've provided buffering adjacent to the building here. We've provided buffering here where there's head-on parking to avoid any kind of glare onto West County Line Road. And we've provided plantings along this reduced buffer along the east side of the building. The trash enclosure has plantings on 3 sides with access to the front of the trash enclosure. And there is a rear buffer provided along that northern property line. And as was mentioned before, the adjacent condominium association had reached out to us and asked us to provide a 6-foot-high board-on-board fence along the rear property line. So we've agreed to do that. And that's going to match this adjacent site to the east. They're also providing the same type of fence. So there'll be a continuous fence along these 2 properties here. We have submitted to the other outside agencies. The only agency that we've heard back from right now is the fire official. And he sent an email, which I provided to Ms. Buono on Friday, that said that he approves this layout as far as circulation and the location of fire hydrants. And he did remark that this site layout does work as far as ease of access and circulation through the site. It works a lot better than the original site layout that we had provided.
Before we get into a general question about the professional reports, there were two comments within Mr. Peters' report, and Mr. Klee touched on it as it relates. One is as it relates to lighting, and then the other as it relates to dumpsters.
Yes.
So as the dumpster, why don't we focus on that? There's a setback requirement.
The trash enclosure here, it does have a setback requirement of 10 feet to the side property line. This layout shows the side yard distance as 6.5 feet. However, we will move that trash enclosure to the west by the 3.5 feet, and we will comply with the 10-foot side yard requirement. And the other comment that was just brought up was that there are some spots in this front parking area and driveway entrance area that were slightly below the requirement of 0.5 foot candles. I've spoken with with my lighting designer, and we will be able to comply with revised plans. We'll be able to shift or add a light fixture as necessary to comply with the foot candle requirement.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
real quick, Jason, the dumpster went from the front of the building to the back of the building.
Yes.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Yes.
Thank you.
The dumpster was previously right around this area. When the building was in the back here, the dumpster was in the front. And that was another one of the comments that had come up from the board members that, why have this nice architecturally designed building with the dumpster in front of the building? So this layout allows us to place that trash enclosure, tucked away in the rear corner of the site, and still providing required access for a garbage truck to get back there.
Now, the plan that's before that you're discussing now has that glass element of the building on the, what's that?
Yes. So when we laid out this building, the glass enclosure on this plan is represented in this corner of the building. It's really just the glass feature. It doesn't really affect the footprint of the building. In discussions with the architect and with the project developer, they've actually flipped the glass facade from this side of the building frontage to this side of the building frontage.
And the architectural plan that was handed out and that you're going to have on the board simply shows
Right.
how that glass feature has been shifted to that other corner.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, and if the board doesn't have a problem with that change, we're going to request, if this application is approved, that you allow us to put that glass feature on that far side, because that's the near side, because that's where the entrance is. That's where it would be most attractive, we believe, to the past the
And it doesn't even really affect the site plan too much. It just affects where the entrance door is located. It's still going to be the same dimension building. It's just that the glass feature will be on the opposite side.
So we should, Sean, we should mark this.
A6.
Thanks. And A6 is simply a colored
May I say
rendering.
It's an updated color rendering,
of
Color
the-
architectural rendering.
architectural rendering indicating primarily the movement of the glass feature from the eastern to the western front of the entrance of the building.
Correct. And it also reflects the new site
Driveway.
layout with the parking in front and the drive aisle and some parking stalls in the back here. Yeah. This rendering has been updated to reflect the new site layout where this building is closer to West County Line Road, and you could see the drive aisle heading to the rear of the site with some cars parked back there, and also the cars in the front of the site here.
Now, as the board professionals have indicated, Mr. Klee did a report dated April 21st, sorry, and Mr. Peters, April 22nd. Are there any technical comments contained within those reports that you cannot agree to address as a condition of approval?
There was one technical comment that I spoke with Mr. Klee about earlier today. His comment was that the light fixtures should be designed with a 6-inch concrete footing at the bottom of them. I went over with Mr. Klee, and Because we have two of the light fixtures are located where there's head-on parking, our detail shows a 3-foot concrete footing just to protect the light pole from any damage in case a car, if there's an accident or a car jumps the curb somehow or something. So we would be willing to provide the 6-inch concrete base on the 2 light fixtures that are not along head-on parking, but we would request that we are allowed to provide the higher concrete base for the 2 light fixtures that are adjacent to head-on parking.
And I absolutely have no problem with it.
And other than that, all the other comments will be addressed.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all we have of Mr. Benenko, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And anyone have any questions for this gentleman? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Ray is here if you have follow-up traffic questions, in case he testified last meeting. I'm told I wasn't here. My son did that meeting.
The only comment that I have is that from this rendering, it's a handsome looking building. It really is.
Thank you.
It looks nice.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Thank you. You solemnly swear or affirm that testimony, information, questions, or comments that you're about to present before the board will represent the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Can you kindly give us your full name, spell your last, and your affiliation, please?
Yes, my name is Jason Schooling. The last name is Schooling. I am a civil engineer and professional planner with PS&S.
And Mr. Schooling, we're seeking to have you qualified as a professional planner for this application. Would you place your credentials on the record, please?
Yes, I am a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey.
And have you been qualified to testify as a planner in other municipalities?
I have.
And how long have you been a planner?
I've been a professional for 14 years. And a professional planner for the last 3 licensed.
Thank you. We accept your credentials.
Thank you. You heard the testimony that the other Jason offered about the bulk variance relief that the applicant is required to obtain as a result of this application. Would you place the necessary proofs on the record, please?
Yes, I will. So the existing property is located within the HC Highway Commercial Zone, where the office is an acceptable permitted use. I will restate the variances that are being requested that are seen on the site plans themselves. These are being requested from Ordinance Section 244-57D. A variance is requested for a minimum lot area of 29,463 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required, for a minimum lot frontage along County Line Road of 101.73 linear feet, where 175 linear feet is required, for a minimum lot width of 102.8 linear feet, where 175 linear feet is required, for a minimum side yard setback for a principal building of 12.1 feet, where 25 feet is required, and for providing a front yard parking setback of 15, where 20 feet is required, and a side yard parking setback of 4.1 feet, where 10 feet is required.
So just the first 3 variances, which relate to the size of the lot and the width of the lot, are C1 variances.
That's correct.
Can you briefly get into the justification for those first, and then we'll talk about the others?
Certainly. So these 3 variances are requested due to the exceptional narrowness and size of the lot and strict application of the bulk zoning standards from Section 244-57D for the highway commercial will result in a hardship that is related to and unique to the specific lot within the zone. So efforts were made by the applicant, as stated by the attorney earlier, to bring this property into conformance by sending buy-sell letters to the neighboring adjacent property owners with no interest whether to buy or to sell their properties. That's my conclusion for the C1 variance.
Thank you.
I'd like me to move on to the C2
Please.
variances as well.
Please.
So when this application was originally submitted with the plans that were shown on the board before, the building itself was in the rear of the property with all the 30 required parking in the front. This was presented in a way that didn't need any variances for side yards or for parking. At the recommendation of the board and its professionals during the March 1st hearing, it was suggested that the building be moved forward and the parking be moved forward so that the building and parking would more closely resemble the lots to the east and west, specifically the Mavis Discount Tire immediately to the west that is already constructed. By shifting up this building, the parking needed to be split up and a drive aisle needed to be provided alongside the building in order to access the lot in the back. By shifting over the building, this now presents a side yard variance, and by shifting over the parking to go along with that, it now presents a side yard parking variance and a front yard parking variance in order to line up with the adjacent lot. So therefore, these variances are required from the ordinance in order to construct the proposed building and parking. So as the board is well aware, for a C2 variance, this relates to when the purposes of the MLUL, would be advanced by deviation from the local zoning requirements, and when the benefits of this deviation substantially outweigh any detriment. So granting of this variance will help promote the following purposes of the MLUL. First, from 40:55D2, it would be for B, to secure safety from fire, flood, panic, and any other natural and man-made disasters. One of the benefits from moving the building up and having this aisle and parking in the back is now emergency access vehicles will be able to access the building from 3 sides in the case of emergency. Also, this now allows for there to be not only egress from the building from the front, but also from the rear of the property to allow for quicker and closer evacuation routes for anybody inside the building. And the circulation has also been improved to where instead of having the dead end lot where people could be potentially backing out and blocking the main drive aisle, by having 2 separate lots and an independent drive aisle, this will allow anyone to be able to leave the property quicker and easier as well. In addition to that, it helps promote H to encourage the location, the design of transportation routes, which will promote the free flow of traffic while discouraging location of such facilities and routes which result in congestion or blight. As the engineer has previously attested to, previously with the dead end, anyone backing out from their space would end up blocking that, and it would also be the main means that emergency vehicles or refuge collection would end up going through. So that could present some congestion on the site. By now having 2 separate parking lots, adding the loop on the top and having an independent drive aisle separate from those parking lots, it will help increase the flow of traffic on the site and hopefully will help reduce congestion as well. And lastly, it also helps promote I to promote the desirable environment through creative techniques and good civic design and arrangement. This is the main public benefit from moving the building forward, is that the building and the parking is now in line with both properties on the east and the west. This presents a more uniform look, a more harmonious look along County Line Road. And by moving the building forward, this also allows the refuge enclosure, which used to be in the front, to now be moved in the back, which it will now no longer be visible from County Line Road. So overall, this plays into the aesthetic benefits of this adjustment and how it's improved from the previous alternative. In addition to that, we'll look at the negative criteria. As the engineer previously testified to, there's multiple areas where these proposed improvements will either help benefit or reduce or eliminate completely the issues, including stormwater. The stormwater management provided in the stormwater management report and as previously testified to meets all applicable requirements, and the site development will not create any increase in stormwater runoff to any of the adjacent sites. Also, as far as lighting, the lighting on the site has been submitted on the plans and in previous testimony, meet all lighting requirements for the township, and there will be no spillage onto the adjacent properties. So it is not anticipated that there'll be any public detriment as a result of the lighting. The site access and circulation, as testified to by the engineer, there is an improvement for the site circulation by having the 2 separate lots and having the drive aisle. So there will be no congestion, there'll be a better free flow of traffic through there. And as demonstrated through the traffic report that's been submitted to the municipality, there is not going to be any detriment to the local road as well. And aesthetically, we've spoken to already how by moving the building and parking forward, it's in harmony with the lots to the east and to the west. The only potential negative impact is by moving the building over and the parking over with that setback, we are closer to the eastern property line. However, even in the approved design that you see to the property on the east, there is still a significant wooded buffer between our property line and their limits of full development. So we see even with granting of this variance for a reduction in building setback and a reduction of parking setback, that it will not result in a noticeable visual impact to the neighboring lots. So looking in totality of the proposed improvements, I find that the proposed design is responsive to any potential adverse impacts of developing the undersized lot or the reduction of the side yard setbacks.
And therefore, the positive outweigh the negative under the C2 criteria.
Yes.
That's all we have of the planner, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for this gentleman? Yes.
Yes.
I know the impervious coverage. What is the
That'll be a question for the engineer.
We'll get you that. Yes. I think it's 46.3.
No, the impervious coverage is 72.6%, where 75 is the maximum requirement.
Yeah. Yeah. I was off by 30.
Take
30. That's why I went to law school.
Anyone else? Mr. Peters, do you concur with this gentleman's testimony?
No exceptions to the testimony with regards to the variance. Quite frankly, from a less technical perspective, this simply is a better layout than the original one. It's better for the applicant. It's a more safe application, and it does improve the visuals along County Line Road, one of our main commercial corridors in town.
Thank you. Okay. Do you have any more witnesses?
So we have, again, Mr. Ray's here if you have any questions of him. Otherwise, that concludes our presentation.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Ray? No? Okay. I guess at this point, we're going to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone online that has any questions regarding this application? Please raise your hand. I'm sorry, Anthony. I didn't hear. Sorry. 5 people, no hands. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay, any further discussion? No? Anyone care to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve with the same conditions.
Okay. We have a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dolan? Oh, my apologies.
Yes, Mr. Dolan, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Jeswicki?
Yes.
Ms. Brito? Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Herring?
Yes, it's a very handsome building. I think it's going to make a good addition to our corridor on County Line Road. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Hudak?
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
All right, let's all get out and go see the super pink moon this evening. You're going to be able to see that. Can I get a motion to close?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.